Alright, what's going on, y'all? So anyways, I was creating a video on healing magic, but it was going to be all about sexual energy, about how to, for men mostly, obviously because I'm a man, so I know most about that, about ejaculation and your age and how many times you should ejaculate a week. And that's not saying that you shouldn't have sex, but to do these special tips and techniques on how to not orgasm. This way you can still pleasure your partner. But I'm going to put that on hold. And now this video, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. This video is going to be about the recent comments I got from, what is it? Fucking Beauty something. Anyways, I can't remember the guy's name now, and I just had a bunch of conversations with him. I'll correct that in a second. But I'm going to reference, and I've already recorded the audio of me reading his comment and about 15 minutes worth of me talking about why, if anybody out there who, like him and two other people that commented on the things that Thunder Wizard was saying, and that have a problem with when Thunder Wizard is criticizing Christ, Jesus. Well, this video is going to be for you guys, for anybody who has that deep programming, okay? Now, I'm not saying it's okay to have that deep programming and still do magic. You're going to have to analyze and see where the most sensitive spots are, that if people push those buttons, you explode and lose your shit. But there's a word called Praxis that both Bob Proctor and Frederick Xavier teach about, and it's using what you've already been programmed with, that's deep in your subconscious, and knowing what that is on a conscious level, and being able to use those in coordination with each other, basically, to manifest what you want. So instead of having them at odds with each other, and you can say, well, things that are in the unconscious or subconscious, how do you know what they are? They're unconscious, and you're right. However, when people are triggered, either ecstatic emotions, really good ones, or really angry ones, whatever triggered, like when someone gets so mad they have to comment and start insulting Thunder Wizard whenever he starts talking about how Christ never existed and there's no true Bible. That means you have some deep programming inside of you. So that's one way to know how and what your programming is. Now, it's not always going to be that simple, because until someone triggers you like that, it's hard to know what it is. But for anybody who is triggered like that, well, this video is going to be for you. And I'm going to talk about how you can use that for your benefit, and how you don't necessarily have to remove that. Now, depending on what you do, and depending on what you want to do, you're going to have to make a choice. Because removing your own programming, if you decide to try to do that on your own, it's a hard process. And the things that were built up on it, you're programmed as a child a certain way, and you try to get rid of those programming now as an adult, or anything else that was programmed at the same time might go down with that, and that can cause more harm than good. And in the same sense, it's very hard to do without someone like a psychiatrist to bring it to you, or at least a teacher or whatever. And I think that's why Thunder Wizard does these things. So if you get somebody who gets triggered like that and he can get through to them, then he can help them see, probably cheaper than a psychiatrist, and maybe not, who knows. But you also get the spiritual aspect of it. So maybe that's his point. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. I don't know. But it seems likely. And he's trying to help people. He's also trying to make money, doing what he loves to do. He wants to help people the same way he's been helped. He knows about this stuff, He was almost in the church, in the seminary, whether he was going to be a priest or some kind of preacher or whatever the case was. So maybe he wants to help people in that way. But if you're not ready to get there yet, there might be other things you can do. If you still want to practice some kind of magic or spirituality, still want to manifest, but you have these ties to religion or Jesus or whatever the case is, you may be able to work around it. And I'm going to use Frederick Xavier's videos to show you how he explains it, because he's doing pretty well for himself, considering, this is the reason he chose ceremonial magic. So that being said, I'll play a small clip here now to let him explain in his words what we're going to get into, and then I'll play those comments my response, and then I will play Frater's video on Praxis for you to understand exactly what I'm trying to get at here. And then I'll play another video after that where he just uses a few phrases that you can use to your benefit, and then I'll come back on and I'll explain further. Alright, here we go.
That I'm going to have to end up doing another video. But before I do, I need to get a few things that I've been meaning to get out of the way done first. One of those things is the idea of praxis that Bob Proctor spoke about. The integration of the subconscious beliefs with the conscious beliefs for mutual benefit instead of having them play off against each other. Because if they are at odds with each other, which side do you think is going to win? Well, you already know the answer to that. Most people can understand this concept.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? So yeah, this is just audio, but I just have to get into a few things here. Anyways, the person who was Beauty Studios actually hit me back after everything, after all this shit, this whole Bible thing and everything with Thunder Wizard and all that shit. And we had a back and forth conversation yesterday, and he ended up being okay with everything. Now, he has since deleted all his messages, so I can only see some of them, and even one of my replies, I guess, got deleted. I didn't think he'd be able to delete my reply, but in all honesty, the reply that got deleted that I would have liked to share wasn't a bad one, not for him anyways, and not for anybody really, but just to sidestep everything, let's see if I can, okay, I don't know if, oh, fuck's sakes, what is going on here? Alright, so Rudy Studios, I don't know himself, I don't know, but went to a seminar. He ended up saying something to the effect that he had me fooled and all that. He is telling all Bibles the same and they're not. Okay, that's one of his older ones. Let's see if all these are his older ones or is this the newest? Yeah, these are his older ones. So I think all the newer ones actually got deleted. He is attacking Shakespeare. Why is that? Was one of the ones that he sent to me. King James Version Bible was another one he sent to me. Thunder Wizard is a liar and Universal Mind. All you guys got him wrong. I got his real issue. That's why he tried to kill me. So that's one of the ones I ended up replying to, because, it seemed like this guy's having a really hard time with that. So I ended up sending him a different reply to that one. And I forget exactly what that first reply was, but it has somehow got deleted, even though it's my own reply. You would think it would still be there on one of my videos or one of my channels, but as far as I can tell, it is gone, so I'm not positive if I'll be able to get the words back that I wrote him. But then after that, I asked him, well, how was he trying to kill you? And I told him that in some words that just one sentence from one video is not enough to go on. If you have more and you want me to look into it or whatever, then I'll gladly do that. But from what I can tell, he's not trying to do anything nefarious. I think he's trying to help. I don't think I said that because he seemed very upset. But then to one of his other ones, he is attacking Shakespeare. Why is that? So this is one of the comments that are still here, and I wrote, I have a theory, but it's just that. Again, I'd love to help, but do you have more to go on, like why King James Version Bible is banned in 9 countries? Because he wrote me a message saying that it was banned in 9 countries, that Bible, for some reason, which is also a deleted comment. Personally, I think you shouldn't care what he thinks. If your spirituality includes the Bible, then great. Teach people what and how you practice. Who fucking cares what some almost 60-year-old thinks? Now, that is no insult to Thunder Wizard. It's just me trying to get through to this person by putting a slight little jab, I guess, in there. It's not really a jab. I mean, someone who's 60 and who seems to be in good shape like Thunder Wizard, that's something to be proud of. But empower yourself. Stop allowing Thunder Wizard to disempower you. He's against Christianity, or so he says, but it's no threat to you. I know many successful magicians that use the Bible. In fact, Mind and Magic YouTube channel for Frater Xavier has a paid program or two on magic in the Old Testament, Psalms, I believe. So you can be just as successful, but you won't be if you allow Thunder Wizard or anyone else to put doubt in your mind and fuck up your programming. You have the same power as him, as me, as Frater Xavier, and if I dare say it, Jesus himself. It's time to let go of drama and become who you're meant to be, brother. If he's doing all this deception and lies and bad shit, then he will get his. But right now, you're giving away your power to him. You're letting him affect you. The ball's always in your court. What's going to be your next move? More blaming and accusing? Or can you let go and focus on becoming better than him and actually helping yourself and then others? So that one got through to him. He ended up saying, thank you. Thank you, you're right, and I will do that. I'm going to let go, blah, 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 blah. So then I wrote him another message, which is also deleted now, which sucks because it was a nice message. But I said I was great to hear that. If there's anything I can help, let me know. I will help you. And I mean, I wrote something to the effect of I won't have the same views as you always because, I don't necessarily believe in Jesus and the Bible as fact or as something that can necessarily help you. I do like to break down stories from time to time, and I definitely like to listen to people like Jordan Peterson break down those stories. And even whenever Frater Xavier talked about Jesus Christ, the heart, and what may or may not be the true message of Jesus, all that shit I listen to. But, just because me and this guy, and, even Thunder Wizard for that matter, so we all have different views. Like, I don't have the complete same beliefs as Thunder Wizard, just like Beauty Studios here doesn't have the same beliefs as me or Thunder Wizard, but there's no reason for us to all be enemies, you know what I mean? And that's something that I wrote in that message, and then it got deleted or for whatever reason. But then he asked me if he could send me some videos, which he did, some links to You Are Creators, I think was it, and I told him that I watched many videos. I told him to send it, but they generally go to my junk folder, but I just saw them. There's 3 of them that he sent me in the junk folder, and I'm going to proceed to watch those. And, if you're watching or listening to this right now, thank you. I really appreciate it, and it was nice chatting with you. And, yeah, if you ever need help with anything or, whatever, just hit me up. I'm trying to do something similar to what I think Thunder Wizard is trying to do, although I know a lot of people think he's the enemy, and he comes off that way, and, I thought something very similarly in the beginning as well. But to be completely honest, if it wasn't for me going through the same thing that this guy Beauty Studios is going through with Thunder Wizard, I wouldn't have made it onto the other side. So sometimes you have to go through this little dark phase where you're very angry with someone who you look to as a teacher, and then you think they're deceiving you, or maybe he never looked to him as a teacher. I don't know. I don't really know his personal situation with him except for what he's told me. But, all that's just to say that, I owe a little bit to Thunder Wizard because I learned some stuff through, and it's not like I don't want to say his behavior, but some of it is through his behavior, but it's not in a bad sense. I'm not trying to play that off as I learned a lesson from how he acts because he's acting bad and I'm better than him. That's not what I mean. Nothing like that at all. But I couldn't see what he meant at a certain period of time. I couldn't see what he was getting at because I was blinded by my own belief systems and programming. And then once I got back to where I think I was at one point, I was more depolarized before a lot of this stuff happened with my wife. And then I had to back off because I was so depolarized that even my relationship, my marriage stopped really meaning anything, because you get to this point where, it's just, you're so in the middle. You're not right, you're not left, you're not love, you're not hate, you're just in the middle, that things stop mattering so much except for your transformation. And I don't mean that I was obsessed with, it kind of was, but I wasn't like, if I'd always do my exercises because it became programming for me to do my ritual, but I wasn't always seeking more and more knowledge in this kind of addiction type way. I was just cruising along kind of between the poles, and whenever it hit me like a ton of bricks that my wife was no longer happy, even though she told me on multiple times, it wasn't until like this big shock of her actually speaking to another man knocked me back to one side of polarity that I was able to like, whoa. But then it wasn't long after that, or around the same time, that I think Thunder Wizard was doing, no, that's not true. But anyway, something happened, and maybe that was Thunder Wizard was doing. It was about a month before that where Thunder Wizard was doing his little skits of pretending to be a lizard. And I already know there's no such thing as the lizards and all that lizard conspiracy. That doesn't mean there isn't people using that information to manipulate people, but in the same sense, there isn't no actual lizard beings. There is a lizard thought form, but there's no lizard beings. So people are using that information to manipulate people and get people's mind and get their focused energy on something that really doesn't matter, something silly. But whenever I saw him do that, a lot of my anger and frustration got put on him. You know, there's a reason when you lay down and you talk to a psychiatrist, you're not looking at them when you're going through your traumatic pain and anger and you're thinking about people that have hit you and hurt you. Because if you look at your psychiatrist while you're going through those emotions, then you're going to associate their face with those emotions. Same way like how I said the story, how I got the old man at my last job to like me. He really didn't like me at all. He thought I was just going to be another fucking waste of time, young kid who doesn't give a fuck, blah, 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 blah. But I used, you know, some of the persuasive, not necessarily manipulation, but, you know, kind of is. But all these little techniques I learned through NLP and stuff like that to get him to talk about good things that happened in his life while he was staring directly at me. And if I lost his attention, I'd make sure I get his attention while he was speaking a bit. So that every time he saw me, there would be a part of him that would associate me with those good emotions, and that got him to start liking me again. So I think that had something to do with it. When I thought Thunder Wizard was trying to deceive people just to get hits, even though I realized later that he was actually doing it to teach. And then me and him went back and forth, not actually back and forth. I went back and forth in my mind with him. He was like I wasn't even on his radar. But in my mind, I went back and forth like, oh, this is why his bullshit about affirmations. I had these same things happening. So that's why I felt this guy, you know. He's very upset because of his attachment to the Bible. And personally, I don't think everybody needs to get rid of their Bible programming. I don't. I think they need to come to a place where they realize that the fucking thing isn't real, isn't fact. But that's just my opinion, so you can hate me, or you can just take my words for what they are. They're just words and just my opinion. If you want to believe that it was a real man, then that's fine, but I don't think that's the case. But I still think there's significance in the Bible that you can use. I think there's a reason it's the cornerstone of our world. I think there is something in there that's important, and even if there isn't, it's not going anywhere. So knowing those stories is semi-important, because the court system here in the West uses it. The schools mostly, you know, it's everywhere. And unless we somehow find a way to get rid of that, even if you don't believe in it, it's still important to kind of know. Especially if you're somewhere on the other side of the fence and you need to defend yourself, knowing those stories and where there's, whatever. It's an important book for a reason, and it's lasted the test of time, and that's, in my opinion, it's because they're older stories than actually what the Bible puts out. But whether the name is Jesus or someone else's name, whether it's Canaanite or even older than that, doesn't matter. I don't think people need to get rid of that programming. I think they just need to not be programmed by the church, like priests, like what they teach in schools nowadays. You could use the Bible and do magic. There's like recipes for your own incense in that fucking Old Testament, for God's sakes. And before you say I'm wrong, I'll play a fucking video and I'll show you the fucking proof if you don't believe me. Uncle Birch is the one who told me this, and he's another person who's very much against Christianity. And he says in the Old Testament there's and it's a pretty good recipe. And he says it's initially for a goddess, but nonetheless, all this is to say was just to comment on some of the comments once again that I was receiving. If you look at them, they're not all there that was there, so things are kind of out of place and don't make sense. It's because when he deleted his comments, obviously my reply got deleted with it, which kind of sucks because I like reading my replies because I think I always have something good to say, to toot my own horn, I guess. But seriously, I don't think Frater Xavier teaches this. He's like, you don't have to necessarily get rid of your programming. He's like, that's the reason he picked ceremonial magic, was why he picked ceremonial magic to do instead of something like witchcraft, or whatever the case is. So if you're doing maybe a Norse or a pagan or a witchcraft, spirituality, then the Bible might be detrimental to your programming. And, you know, to perform some of your witchcraft, you may have to get rid of that programming. But ceremonial magic incorporates a lot of shit from the Bible, because the Old Testament is what the Judaism is founded on. And the ceremonial magic that I do, which is the same one as Frater Xavier, which is Kabbalah, the great work of self-transformation. Kabbalah and the old Kabbalist is Judaism, but it's more of a mysticism of Judaism. It's more of a polytheist rather than a monotheist, because like you'll be talking about, anyways, it doesn't really matter, but we understand, or we can use that power of that book in such a neutral way that we're not bounded by the programming of it. And that's all I'm trying to say, is if someone who has a strong programming and this faith that anytime someone says something that pisses them off about Christianity, I mean, that does need to go. In all honesty, if you are going to lose your shit every time someone says something that you don't like about your religion, well, then you're very polarized. And to perform good magic, I'm not saying you can't perform magic by being polarized, you certainly can, but to perform good magic, you have to be more depolarized. That's just fact. It's just easier, because otherwise you're only going to be able to do one half of the magic, which is only going to be what you perceive to be positive. So anytime you want to banish your poverty, you won't be able to do that, because that is seen as negative and you're going to think that's black magic. Stuff like that. But if you change what some of the definitions mean in your own mind, if you're able to change your programming, okay? And by change, I mean alter. So you alter your programming, no pun intended on having an altar and altering your mind, you know. Your altar is an extension of your mind, so you're altering your mind by using an altar. But by changing the things that are important to you about that book, that, you know, going through the Bible and having, you know, for me anyways, like I showed the whole pharmakia thing. Well, witchcraft is what replaced the word pharmakia initially, and that's drug. And both those have something to do with me, because I was an ex-addict, I was on drugs, and I perform witchcraft now. So in the past, I was a sinner, and now I'm a sinner. Either way, no matter how you look at it, because they say witchcraft is the same as the word drug and pharmakia, because only witches use drugs. Well, everybody who takes a Tylenol technically is a sinner, according to that book. But when you take that book and you change that context and you realize that, you know, it doesn't matter what the religion says or what the priest says, or if God thinks you're a sinner, if you can just use that book in a way that benefits you without having the programming that comes along with it, and think some being who divinely inspired people to write that book thinks you're a sinner because you were performing witchcraft or taking a Tylenol for your headache, if you just simply get rid of those fucking parts that don't fucking matter, then you can still look at those Bible stories, use them to your benefit. You can create your own fucking coven witchcraft around the Bible if you fucking want to. It is all up to you. We all have this power within us. You know, people are teaching it, talking in New Age terms, but they're doing some type of witchcraft without maybe as much paganism in it. People are using Scientology, but it's a different type of way of worshiping the planets. People are doing, you know, the older and newer, and there's Wicca, and there's the old school witches, and there's Santeria, and there's Paulo, and there's all these different traditions out there that are all spiritual, that all, it doesn't matter. We all have this power within us. And the books, the stories, the deities, the altars, the things we use are just ways to speak to that part of our mind, to bring things into manifestation. That is it. So use the Bible, don't use the Bible. It doesn't matter. The only time it matters is if you are programmed by that Bible to have strong reactions to anybody saying anything that is going to put you off your game, because you can't perform good magic if you're in a pissed off way and you're trying to bring some money to you, and you're trying to bring it using, you know, love emotion. You're so grateful for money, and then someone says something and you're pissed off all day. Well, you're not going to be able to get that money to come to you because you're not in the right vibrational state, frequency, if you will, even though it's the wrong way to use that word. So anyways, that's all I wanted to add to this. I'll get back to the second
to me that I'm going to have to end up doing another video. But before I do, I need to get a few things that I've been meaning to get out of the way done first. One of those things is the idea of praxis that Bob Proctor spoke about. The integration of the subconscious beliefs with the conscious beliefs for mutual benefit instead of having them play off against each other. Because if they are at odds with each other, which side do you think is going to win? Well, you already know the answer to that. Most people can understand this concept. It's very logical and it makes sense. But how many people have actually given serious thought to and listed the limiting core beliefs that they have that are holding them back? Most of the limiting core beliefs involve a lack of self-worth and or deservingness. And this is something to keep in mind when we revisit blockages. If, for example, one has the limiting core belief that they don't deserve money, how might that affect the outcome of them doing a money spell? And you can see how this may be a bit of a problem. A conflict of interest between the two halves of the mind. This is probably what's going on with me right now, because I've been having my recording equipment suddenly act up and, not work right. I'm getting shorts in the lines, because even if people look to me for the answers and I have those answers for them, on a subconscious level, I may not really feel deserving enough to teach, which comes from my childhood programming. You have to get used to the idea that we've all been programmed. As I said before, I'm not worthy of praise. So when people look to me for answers and spiritual guidance, it weirds me out. Am I the best person to be teaching these things? Probably not. But there aren't a whole lot of people talking about these things, and from the understanding that I have of them. I do what I can, but at the same time, since Praxis hasn't been totally achieved yet, when I start working on these lessons, my equipment starts malfunctioning. But maybe I just needed to acknowledge that, because it seems to be working a lot better now. I mean, when it really comes down to it, the biggest answer that I have for people is they need to find the answers within themselves. But most people don't know how to go about doing that. They don't know where to look in themselves. So that's what I'm trying to get to. I know it's a pretty sad state of affairs in the world if I'm the one having to explain these things to people. On that I can achieve praxis on. So what other core belief programming can negatively affect your magic? One of the big ones is your religious programming, whatever you were brought up in as a child. For me personally, my parents were and still are very strict Christian conservatives. One with the viewpoint that magic and the occult are evil and of the devil. Doesn't matter that they don't understand it, doesn't matter that they never looked into it far enough to see all the Judeo-Christian aspects of ceremonial magic. Doesn't matter that they don't know what they're talking about. Being brought up in that environment is going to program me as a child on the subconscious level. I can consciously disagree with and reject that religious programming, but the subconscious has already been programmed. You see? How might that affect my magic? It could be a huge obstacle, and is for many people. Now, not everyone was brought up with that, but many people were. If you were brought to church or Sunday school on a semi-regular basis during your childhood by your parents, whatever religion that may be, is going to become part of your subconscious core beliefs. Now, you can try to change those core beliefs, but all the beliefs that are built upon those core beliefs are going to come tumbling down with it. That may or may not be always a good thing. And also, it's very, very difficult to change a core belief on your own without seeking some kind of professional help. I'm not saying that it can't be done, I'm just saying that it's difficult. However, in this particular case, it may not even be necessary. See, there's a lot of people involved in magic that have an aversion to Christianity, the Bible, Scripture, Hebrew names, etc., etc. I love the Scripture, which may sound odd considering I never liked being brought up in that environment. But I love it because it helps me achieve praxis. The weirded out feeling that I told you about before, is the same feeling I get when I'm doing the analysis of the keyword and I jump from a Judeo-Christian reference to an Egyptian deity reference. Because there's a clash in the programming. I'll play up the Judeo-Christian Hebrew stuff and play down the Egyptian. Doesn't mean that it won't be the exact opposite for somebody else. Instead of allowing the core belief to become an obstacle, I'm now using it to my advantage. I'll frequently incorporate scripture into my magic. So it shall be written, so it shall be done. Ask, and ye shall receive. And because it's in alignment with what the subconscious believes and the programming that has been put into it, I'm telling you, it's can be pretty powerful. The uncrossing ritual that I told you about in a previous video, reading the Psalms, that's from hoodoo. See, this is why hoodoo and Haitian voodoo and Santeria and these other religions are very, very, very powerful because they've achieved a praxis. The Haitian voodoo is like a mix of African shamanism, French occultism, I believe, and Catholicism. And it's through the blending of these things that they're able to achieve this praxis where these beliefs work together instead of against each other. Finding ways to use what you got to propel you instead of hindering you. In the case of core beliefs involving self-worth and being deserving, it may be easier to add on to the core beliefs to change them around instead of trying to tear them down or change them altogether. I may not deserve money, but I get it anyway. Or I don't deserve money lacking in my life. Little additions can change the whole thing around. The idea and concept being that it may be easier to build upon the foundations that you have instead of ripping them entirely all the way down. Because it may not be necessary to go through that, which can be a very difficult and intense process. So hopefully this has given you some perspective on Praxis and what Bob Proctor. Images, archetypes, symbolism, properties of the other world that you're trying to get in touch with. And if the subconscious had a motto, it would be, keep it simple, stupid. I explained this in the lesson on Praxis, why I frequently use scripture in my magic and in my rituals. I'll say things such as, does God keep his word? Because that's putting my subconscious on the spot. And see, now there's no reason to doubt. This is how we achieve the faith. Because everything I'm telling you should make logical sense, so we have that side, the conscious side, covered. And then during ritual, while you're performing your magic, you could be reading scripture and verses, saying things such as, ask and ye shall receive, asking if God keeps his word. And now we have the subconscious side covered. So now there shouldn't be any reason to doubt because we have both sides covered. And this is what the magician should strive toward. And you amplify all that with your emotions and your visualizations, and things will happen. Mark my words, things will happen. Now, it's all going to largely depend on what your subconscious core beliefs are and how you were raised. Only you will know that. But it's no different from Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, okay? Archetypes. They're both real and valid in the realm of the subconscious mind. So you want to go with what you were programmed with as a child, preferably. Because that's going to be part of your subconscious core beliefs. Despite what your conscious mind believes now. And you can feel good about it. Okay? You can feel good about this. Because the war of science versus religion for you at least, is over. Both are valid, necessary, and have their own domain. On a side note, I did encounter some opposition in recording this lesson. At one point, my microphone completely cut out, and come to find out, my mixing board had turned off, which in order to do so, the button in the back had to physically push in order to come all the way back out.
All right. Oh, shit. I don't know what I did there. Anyways, I'm going to try not to make this too long. I'm going to keep it a short video for now. But, so you heard it from Frater after you heard what I had to say. So instead of having to deprogram yourself, or let's say you're into New Age spirituality, you're trying to choose if you want to do some kind of witchcraft, some paganism, some thunderpath shamanism, or you want to do ceremonial magic and you're not sure. You're watching Thunder Wizard, you're watching maybe Frater Xavier, maybe Birch, maybe sometimes you watch me, whatever the case is. And then Thunder Wizard says something and it pisses you off. You get triggered. Okay, well, that's something you should be marking down after you have your fit and all that, because it's not your fault. You got triggered. You were programmed as a child. That's blasphemy. So I get it. You write down whatever you think that limiting core belief is. As a child, you were programmed that Jesus is a real person. He's there to save you. Anytime you do something bad, you go to him. You say he forgives you, and you're good to go. So you can write that down. Now, a lot of other programming will come from either a lack of self-worth or self-deserving, as you heard from what he says. So, for example, if you're trying to manifest money and you don't think you deserve it, you have something deep inside that you don't like, that you regret, that you think you did something wrong, you don't deserve it. Well, that's something else. If you notice that, if you feel that when you're trying to do some kind of affirmation, maybe you are doing some kind of magic, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you feel bad about it, well, you need to mark that down. You got to keep some kind of log there, okay? And once again, if you ever notice, like Frater Xavier went on saying he had resistance in doing that, and his environment, things were happening within his environment, like his soundboard or something like that went down. Well, your environment is an extension of you. The reason you keep your floors clean, you keep your shit cleansed, keep your windows, whatever, closed nice, all that shit is because it's an extension of you. If you don't take care of the stuff you got, how are you going to get more stuff? But if you're having triggered extreme emotions, that equals some kind of core belief, most likely when you were a child. Religious programming, potentially. And that's what I'm trying to do this video mostly about. Now for me, Frater has helped me receive Praxis. And I've said it many times. I used to say, I've said this many times too, you can get into your mind that every time you eat a mock chicken sandwich, you manifest $100. You can literally get that programming and that would happen. You'd have to do something for 21 days over and over and over again to get that programming in you. You can program anything into your mind for it to manifest. And I know that's a weird extreme example, but I stand by it. How Frater has helped me, helped me achieve Praxis is by watching his mystery school, by knowing his background in the church, by hearing this information that he shared with us. He has a video against this guy called Michael from Christian MGTOW, and they go back and forth on why doing this stuff is of the devil, according to Michael, and Frater defends it every step of the way using Bible verses to make his point, saying that he doesn't do anything, he doesn't call on anything, he doesn't make any pacts with any demons, everything he does is in line with the Bible. He's got many episodes on the message of Christ and all this stuff, and I've watched many things. That's another reason to watch Jordan Peterson's message on Christ, because it gives me a new perspective of stuff that I can use so that I don't feel bad when I'm doing this stuff. Because truth be told, I'm doing this all by myself. I'm not going to see a psychiatrist. I'm not working with a mentor. The only person I look to is Frater, Birch. I watch Thunder Wizard for different reasons, but maybe if I have time, I'll get into those. But, and one of the reasons is to see where I'm still programmed, because he's definitely one of those guys that pushes those triggers. And, as I see them, I can deal with them sometimes. I make whole videos about it. Sometimes I just write it down and I deal with it quietly. But Frater's helped me receive Praxis because he's kind of in a similar boat. As a child, I was very much into Jesus and religion and believed in God. Prayed every single night, did the rosary, asked for forgiveness. I got married in the church, so on and so forth. So for me, when I started doing this stuff, I went from one extreme to the next, thinking everything was satanic, the church was all evil, the Vatican was evil. Then to start ceremonial magic, thinking, okay, well, maybe there's some good stuff in the Bible, but it was used to oppress us. And now I'm at a certain point where it's like, I don't even think whoever's in the church now knowingly is oppressing us or doing this stuff on purpose. It's just so many generations down the line, there's a disconnect, and we're so far from the older traditions, just as it is, and everybody should look inside themselves for their own spirituality. All that being said, what I switched in my mind was, I don't think the God of the Bible is the all, the universe, where we come from. However, in my subconscious programming, the God that I was told, the God I made up in my own mind. See, I didn't just take the scripture as a kid and just, that's the God, and paint that picture. I had my own personal relationship with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. I was just prayed to one being, and I always thought that I was taught those beings are all the same. Now I do candles to these energies within my bodies, and I get things back. And I know those energies are all extensions of the one source. So for me, whether my subconscious, what it thinks, if it's God that I was programmed as a child as, it doesn't matter. It's all still that same one source that we're all derived from. And this way, I'm not bucking my own programming. I can go into why all the bad things about the Bible and how it's damaging and blah, 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 blah. But that shit doesn't apply to me anymore. Because all the bad stories and all the bad things it's done and how it might have been used to program people, I've read the Bible quite a few times since then and redefined and readjusted, let's say, the programming that might have been in there. Not only that, but I watched that video where Frater Xavier went against the guy, Michael from Christian MGTOW, and defended magic from a Bible perspective, let's say. And that allowed the Praxis within me and told me it's okay to do this stuff. Not only that, then after watching testimonials of many people who've had success using his programs, also programmed me that this stuff is real. So I have also achieved Praxis, and I don't have to break down completely my Bible Christian upbringing. It's the reason why I say I practice Kabbalah. It's part of the Old Testament. We use the God names in the Bible because there's power in those words. And when I say those words and I do those things, like Frater just said, I don't have any issues inside. And I don't even have any issues when I start saying, the Egyptian God names or any of that. Because I've created programming that there's space for those. I've kind of defined in my own mind that all these gods, these archetypes. It's one of the reasons on a candle, when I make a candle to Saturn, I put Satan on there, I put Odin on there, I put Saturn obviously on there, I put Anshar on there, I'll even put Jehovah on there, for God's sakes, I'll put everybody. That's why I put Jesus on a Jupiter candle. If I have that programming in me, maybe putting Jupiter on there wouldn't manifest it, but maybe when I put Jesus on there, it manifests. I don't leave nothing to chance. So it's okay within me because my subconscious might still have that programming. I'm also adding new programming into my subconscious mind that it's okay to honor the planets because they are heavenly bodies in the heavens. Hell, the Bible's got stories about it. The Apocryphas and the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, talk about the bodies, the planets, and all this. And I've done all this different research, all these different stories that are all very similar from all these different traditions. Therefore, if the Bible stories are very similar to the Mesopotamian stories, well, then I can use a Mesopotamian God and use the Christian God that's the same name, and it works for me. I've achieved Praxis. Now, what doesn't work for me, and it's the same way, like I've had responses like the person, Beauty Studio, that was the name, that he has with Thunder Wizard when Thunder Wizard goes against his programming and triggers him. I've had those same responses when Thunder Wizard said affirmations in Western magic is bullshit and it's Abrahamic religion. I've had those responses, and that's how I know I've got the programming in me now that Western magic is legit and it's not a Christian thing and all this, because as soon as he said it, it fucked with my internal programming. My conscious mind went off the deep end and blah, 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 blah. So I have multiple layers of programming in me. Now, when he goes off about how Jesus is this and Jesus is that, it doesn't really bug me anymore, because I've made peace with the fact that Jesus is an archetype. See, when he starts talking about gods, which ones are real and which ones are fake, that doesn't bug me. But I've programmed myself that I can use Western magic to manifest in my life. I can use affirmations to manifest in my life. In fact, I have. And so when he went against those things, that's what triggered me, because those are deep programs that are fairly new within me, but still, which isn't much difference. But this is how I have achieved Praxis. Now, it doesn't matter. He can say that shit all day long if he wants. It's not going to bug me, because I know I had to do those episodes to realize that, he's never practiced this stuff. He's never tried this stuff. So his opinion on it is just his opinion. It's not based in facts. It's not based in first-hand experience. So there you go. But for anybody out there who is triggered by this stuff, no, I don't want to encourage anybody to turn off the Thunder Wizard. But if he starts talking about something that starts clashing with your programming, well, you have a choice. You either want to deprogram from that stuff, get that out of you. And if you don't want to do that, well, then you need to turn off those episodes, because the more you watch stuff like that, it's going to create this internal conflict. You're consciously taking something in that's fucking with your subconscious. That's fucking with your programming. And you just heard Frater say it. You can use Bible verses. So it shall be written, so it shall be done. I've said it many times. You can write stuff and it will manifest. Well, why do you think that is? Well, it's in the Bible. A book that was, I don't know if it's still the #1 seller, but it's one of the most, at one point it was one of the most, the highest selling book, and blah, 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 blah. Most people have it in their house. It's in the schools. It's in everywhere. People talk about these things. There's power in it because people read it. And maybe they don't believe it on a conscious level, but it's in their subconscious mind. Therefore, you can use that. But if you're listening to people that saying the Bible is to deprogram you, it's bad, you can't use it, it's bullshit, blah, 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 well, what's going to happen is all that programming that you can use to your benefit, you're not going to be able to use anymore, because you're deprogramming yourself through these messages. And I'm not trying to say that the Bible is good or bad. I'm just saying use what you got. If you can't afford to go to a psychiatrist and try to deprogram or deal with these traumatic issues, well, then you can start trying to do steps on your own to get somewhere, so that you can start manifesting some money, so that maybe you can take a Thunder Wizard program, or maybe you can go see a psychiatrist. But you just heard it from Frater Xavier, who's very successful. From his own words, he's making 6 figures. He's selling programs. He's very popular, I mean, I got no reason to doubt him. He's doing hella good, and he's working with his own programming. He's achieved Praxis, and he doesn't let anybody tell him otherwise. You know what I mean? So the best thing you can do when someone starts talking about something like that, turn it off. Listen to something that goes with your programming. Focus on what you want to focus on. Anyways, so what I do, ceremonial witchcraft, is basically taking all the spiritualities that I've ever researched, that I like, that I think have use, and all these different methods to manifest, and all these different methods to get in touch with that part of me, that I can ask questions to get answers. I have it all incorporated in one. Now, do I have all my Christian programming gone? Probably not. Like I said not that long ago, it sometimes feels weird when I say Jesus isn't real, even though I know he's not real. But I don't need to necessarily repeat that over and over again, or go see somebody to get that programming removed from me. I can leave it there, and this way every candle I do on a Thursday, and I put Jesus' name, for Pisces, for Jupiter, for whatever, and I get that manifestation, well, then I'm glad that shit's there. And on a conscious level, I know what I fucking believe, and what's in there on a subconscious level. As long as it's not doing me harm, then who the hell knows? I'm only 34 years old, and I've been having one of the most successful years of my life right now. So as far as I can tell, I'm following in the right path, I'm doing the right shit, and everything is going well. It was hit or miss there in the summertime of this year, and then I was able to turn everything around. So I'm able to keep the harmony with my childhood programming. See, if you have these undeserving feelings in you and that you're not worthy of things because you have childhood programming from maybe you have an abusive parent or something like that, well, that's something you do have to deal with. And you have to either watch his emotional block video where he tells you to say it's not your fault until you actually cry and realize that it's not your fault. But that's something you might actually have to go see a psychiatrist for. Because if you can't manifest stuff in your life because you don't feel like you deserve it, well, then you need to start watching things that tell you you deserve it. That tell you that's not your fault, because it's not your fault. None of that shit's your fucking fault. If you were told that, it's not your fault. And you do deserve it. Everybody deserves to have a great fucking life. Listening to something that tells you it's okay to use Bible scripture to manifest will program you that you can manifest without sin or condemnation. And that's what I think Frederick Xavier, that's one of the reasons I promote him so much, is because he does that. He teaches that. He actively goes against people that call him this and that, telling him he's from the devil. He responds to all these things and he gives you good information, because at the same time as he's teaching, he's also doing it for himself. So if I have any suggestions, it's to go through his videos and realize that it's okay. It's okay if you believe in Christ and all that. Now, I gotta say it, I do think it's beneficial for you to try to get realization inside you that that Bible is a real book with real stories that can be used to your benefit, but it's not real people. It's not based in fact. That's just my opinion. That's, maybe you don't even have to go that far, but just something to keep in the back of your mind, knowing that it's not real. But even if in your mind there's a guy named Jesus and he's going to give you what you want, okay? Well, you just have to define that it's okay for Jesus on Thursday to give you the money you need, and you need to be deserving of that money and not think because you may or may not be a sinner that you're not going to get it. And that's why I say it's a good thing to know that it's not a factual book, but you can still use those deities, archetypes to your benefit. But anyways, that's it for tonight. I hope this helped, and I want to thank Beauty Studios for all the comments, us back and forth. I was glad I can help. I haven't watched any of those videos yet, but I'm going to probably when I go upstairs there, unless I'm busy with my wife first. But yeah, thank you for inspiring this video, and keep up good work, and watch things that empower you, watch things that are going to help your development. Don't go looking for a reason to fight and argue and all that stuff. I know sometimes it feels good to, I know more than this guy, I'm going to show him, but in the end, it's really not going to do you any good, and it's just going to keep putting you further back. Just keep doing you, man, and you'll rise above, and eventually you're going to look back and be like, you know what, all this happened for a reason, and I'm glad it happened, and fuck yeah. But the more you fight with them and buck against that programming, and you want to protect that, that Jesus inside that's telling you to scream at them, the wizard, just put that Jesus to work and start manifesting stuff for yourself instead of having to protect him. It's okay, let it go. It's all right to believe in what you believe in, but you got to find a way to achieve that praxis within you. Everybody who's got this, if you can't manifest because you're consciously fighting the idea that, is he real, is he not real, should I let this go, should I have this, just find a way to work them in together. It might take some time, you can figure it out. A lot of my earlier videos and podcasts, that's what it's been about, was trying to remove this programming, trying to use it to my benefit. And I think Frederick Xavier is probably one of the best people that can help you with that. Like I said, he has programs that teach you how to use the Old Testament. But anyways, hope you enjoyed. Have yourself a great fucking day.